All right, so I'm going to just go over some of the basics of installation. That we're not going to address what type of wall it's adhering to. I'm just talking about no matter what wall you're adhering to, whether it's drywall, metal stud, wood stud, you're having block, concrete, whatever it may be, these are the basic things that you have to do in installation. One of the things that I do is I make sure that on the base cabinets, as I'm going and I'm leveling them, one of the first things that I do, if I have a shorter run, and this only works on a shorter run, if you have a really long run where you're putting cabinets in, this is not going to be as effective. But if you have a shorter run, like you have 3 cabinets right here, you can level these cabinets out to one another, screw them together at their styles that they have by taking a cabinet, and basically what you'll have, and if you can see over here, is you'll take a countersink bit and you'll countersink in there, and then you can screw through. This way you don't split the cabinets, and you could put a screw that's attaching this cabinet to this cabinet. Now, some people will say, hey, I don't like that screw exposed there, or you're going to have to fill that and cap that off. They may pull the doors off, which you'll have to anyway to be able to clamp these cabinets together. And they may want to hide that screw underneath this hinge, which they can, okay? The reason I don't do it that way is I like to be able to have the screw where you can easily get to it. If for some reason you have to go back in there and you have to do an adjustment to the cabinet without taking the door off, which would just be another step that we're adding to it. Another thing that you're going to do is once you screw these cabinets together, because these cabinets each have a 1/4 inch style, we will shim up the gap that you have here to make sure that the gap is even all the way down, and then you put screws through there, and then you'll cut these shims off so it's flush. And the reason we do that too is sometimes people will screw these cabinets together and they'll have them push almost together back there, and that means that when we have an open end like this, everything is kind of shoved back this way, which means if we have a countertop going over here, we won't have an even overhang going all the way down, because this cabinet will be sticking out here and the back end will be pushed in, and we don't want that. So you want to make sure that you screw your cabinets together, that you put your shims where they need to be. Then it gets to the point where you will level the top, put shims down where you need them, okay, in order to be able to get everything level where it pushes back against the wall. But you want to make sure from front to back we're at a level range, and then you want to make sure going long ways here we're at a level. So this is where you can have, you know, a 2 foot, 3 foot level, 4 foot level, okay? Over here you're going to want at least a 4 foot level, because you might put a level here and you go, oh, it's great, but as you extend over here you realize that your cabinets aren't set properly. When you go to put in your upper cabinets, you will remove all the doors from the upper cabinets. You'll make sure that you don't have any shelving or anything in there, and you just have the box. You will mount a cabinet to whatever structure you have over here, making sure it's level, and then you will build off of that way. Typically, you're going to want to start at one end and work your way down, keeping in mind that you may have a filler or something that goes on this end. Over here right now we have a gap against the wall, and at the base we have a gap against the wall. We will be putting in a scribe filler that will go in there. Some people screw those fillers into the cabinets before they put them up, rather than trying to battle this way or that. I don't do it that way, because usually when you put this up, if you level this out, this wall might still not be level, which means that filler that I cut straight might now have to be scribed to be able to get a tight seam against the wall, rather than doing a large caulk joint or something like that. So then you're able to slide this filler in, and then you're able to attach it through here and able to get a tight fit. You'll do the same at the base. Why would we have this cabinet pulled and not pushed all the way against the wall there, and have a filler right here, so that when we open up these doors or we have everything, we don't get them binding against the wall. We give ourselves a little bit of a gap. So we want to make sure that we have that so none of that binds up. Typically, when you will cut out a base cabinet for plumbing, you would not see this big rectangular cutout over here. What you would have is you would cut out everything with hole saws. You would keep it tight and everything. This is cut out in a rectangular fashion because we have block there. We may have to be going into that wall at some point to correct some other issues. And if we have to do that, it's a lot easier already having that cut out for the exposure of what we need. But typically, your installation will be a little bit cleaner than that. And you also may have an outlet in there if you have a garbage disposal or something else that you have to bring to the front to be able to have that flush rather than just cutting out and having it buried back in there with the outlet. So you want to make sure the cabinets are screwed together. You put your shims in here. Everything is level. You want to make sure that these cabinets are screwed together and you build them down. If you have a sink base in your setup, especially if you're doing a large L shape or U shape, you're going to want to make sure that you set your sink first, because everything is going to be running off of that base. That center line is critical for that base, and everything will build out from that. So your sink base is what you want good, especially if you were in, say, a residential application and your sink base was going to go directly underneath a window. You want to make sure it's centered underneath that window space. Otherwise, if that's offset, then the sink is offset. It doesn't look right with the window and everything doesn't line up the way it needs to be. It's critical that you make sure that your cabinets are level, secured, screwed together, and same with your uppers, no matter what structure that you're working on.